Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Acquia, and today I'm going to walk you through digital first economy. And I want to start by acknowledging that our lives are very different right now. So some of the things that we'll be discussing have long been important, but right now in the face of COVID and a global pandemic, what we're discussing is even more important than it would be otherwise. So our lives as marketers, our lives as IT directors, everything has changed in the way that we use data and understand data in order to deliver experiences to our consumers. And obviously, for our consumers on the other end, their lives have changed dramatically as well. Connected experiences are the new normal. So again, as our roles as marketers, IT, running a business, it's really important to be able to connect with consumers where they are in a language and messaging that makes sense to them with this new normal. So how do we do this? What are some considerations? What should be top of mind as we go about trying to deliver these experiences and building an infrastructure that will be useful in order to deliver experiences, especially today when being connected is more important than it ever has been before. So I'm going to discuss three. And the first one I'm going to talk about, really critical for us to think about, is marketing agility. So what does marketing agility mean? It's the ability to move quickly in the face of change and move quickly to adapt as your organization and as market trends evolve. So lots of changes happen, and obviously there are lots of changes happening right now. So a few examples of this change. One, consumers change, and you need to keep step with them. Their needs change. As a consumer, their behaviors may evolve over time, and understanding that customer to be able to keep track of them, keep step with them is critically important. Technology changes. So many leaders in IT, leaders in marketing want to keep step of the competition and actually stay with best of breed technology. So rather than getting locked in to a cloud or a suite that's going to kind of keep them stuck in a particular set of technology, it's important for marketers and IT directors to be able to very nimbly maneuver, change tools, change technologies, and grow with the market as it changes. And then finally, market dynamics change, and COVID's a good example of that. So you need to be responsive as, for example, in retail, you can no longer necessarily have someone come to your store. Now you need to quickly pivot and adjust for curbside pickup or other ways of engaging with the consumer. And then your business changes as well. New priorities emerge. Your business will change tactics and change strategies and change priorities, and you need to adapt to those and stay in lockstep with these changes. So it's all about future-proofing your business and making sure that you have the right infrastructure in place in order to meet these constantly moving targets and changes. So I want to give you an example of one of Acquia's customers who is able to meet agility in a number of interesting ways. So this is a food delivery service company, and in this example, they were faced with some enormous challenges during COVID. So one example is, as a food delivery service, suddenly they're dealing with an influx of new customers that they didn't have before. So their challenge for them is to not just have them be one-time customers, but actually engage with them in such a way to transform this new opportunity and these new customers into long-term loyalists, getting them to become repeat customers, do repeat business with them. So they're using cohort analysis and our analytical tools to actually take this cohort, take this group of newly acquired customers during COVID and track and measure them over time so that they can understand who those consumers are and then deliver the right experience for them later. Another thing is with this new influx of people testing out their food delivery service, they don't want to over discount or set an expectation for discount. So they're measuring and monitoring their discount strategy very closely, and in some cases they're eliminating discounts altogether, leveraging propensity models of those who are likely to purchase without a discount versus those who aren't. Another example is marketers are getting direct access to any reports that they need. So one of the things that is really important to Acquia and our Acquia Marketing Cloud in particular is giving any team within your business to direct access to reporting. So the marketing team, the IT team, any customer service team, customer experience teams, everybody gets direct access to cleanse, dedupe, consolidated data. And having that direct access really frees the team up to be more agile and responsive. And then finally, in this example, this food delivery service is adjusting delivery options based on time zones. So this is a really great example of that agility and that ability to be very nimble depending on how dynamics change. And in this case, some of the hot zones, such as New York City, New Jersey, are shut down, and they're actually not delivering there, but they're providing options through the postal service to be able to actually mail their food. In this case, it's frozen food, so it's packaged in such a way where that makes sense, and send that through the postal service. So they're able to just flip on a dime, do things really quickly because they have the infrastructure in place to be very, very agile. So the second one I'm going to talk about is operational efficiency, and this is all about reducing costs, basically being able to change the way you do business in order to increase these efficiencies, which ultimately reduce the costs and free everybody up to do more strategic work. So some examples of this are campaign efficiencies. So on the marketing team, being able to speed time to market quickly, spin up a campaign if you see an opportunity. Business efficiencies. So in the other slide, I think I mentioned, operating off of one unified trusted data source. If the whole business is operating off of the same data, it creates a lot more efficiencies in interdepartmental communication and even setting business objectives and KPIs. Interdepartmental efficiencies, as I mentioned, we find at Acquia, if they don't have the right CDP, customer data platform or infrastructure in place, then oftentimes marketers have to, for example, go to the IT team and ask for them to pull a report or pull a list that they can use for a campaign. By giving teams direct access to data, that kind of solves for that problem, and people no longer have to just kind of run these errands for other teams. And then obviously there's analytical efficiencies as well. So if data is accessible, it's also important for data to be understandable. We're all swimming in a sea of data. If it's not understandable or usable, it's not going to be actionable. So having that in a format where it's really easy to run reports, get analytical insights, that's a key piece of what we're talking about for operational efficiencies. And I'm going to give you a prime example of one of our customers who has increased in efficiencies tremendously, and that's our customer Wix. I'm sure you're familiar with them in the UK, home improvement company. And basically a couple of examples of how they've increased efficiency. So one is their call center. So they have a team of folks in the call center who both do call out campaigns, they field calls if someone needs help with a product repair, etc. Before using Acquia, that call center only had visibility into previous calls to the call center and items that they had purchased. They had no insight into whether this customer had a high propensity to buy an ancillary product, for example, or what the lifetime value was of the customer, or even had they been to the website recently? Were they clicking around? How were they engaged with emails? With Acquia, the call center, the folks in the call center now have the ability to see all of that information and deliver an experience on the phone that's a lot more relevant and targeted and personalized for that person, with the goal of increasing revenue, increasing customer satisfaction, et cetera, and also reducing call volume time as well. Without that, they actually had to call into IT if a consumer called into the call center and ask them to quickly run a list and pull data and details about the person on the phone, get that back to it. Highly inefficient. So giving them direct access really increased efficiency quite a bit. So yeah, and along with that, by giving these teams direct access to data, they were able to pull lists, in real time. And then, as an example for Facebook campaign, this is another example of efficiency, actually. So typically, again, if you're relying on other teams to kind of pull lists for you, they would have to put in that request to get a list that they would then send to Facebook as a custom audience. And that just took some time. It took 3 weeks in this case. With Acquia being able to have access to that data, the team itself who's running that campaign could just quickly pull the list and upload it to Facebook. So it went from 3 weeks to 30 minutes, increased efficiency quite a bit in that regard as well. And then finally, I wanted to talk about data privacy and governance. So this is a really important thing to consider across both marketing and IT in terms of the infrastructure that you're putting in place in order to deliver these experiences. So, obviously, security threats aren't going anywhere. There are more compliance regulations. They're constantly evolving. And consumer privacy is becoming more and more important as consumers are empowered to own their data, to understand their data, to reclaim how their data is being used. That's happening. I know the UK and EMEA was a pioneer in this, but this is really happening worldwide. So global brands who have a presence in many different countries need to be cognizant of those privacy regulations, which may vary a little bit from country to country. So it's quite a task that marketers and IT professionals are faced with in order to deliver these seamless omni-channel experiences while still adhering to privacy regulations. And of course, the risks are if you don't do it correctly, you could be fined, and also you're at risk of not delivering the experience that consumers are expecting now that they are empowered with having their privacy respected by the brands they interact with. So I wanted to give an example of a customer data platform and how this can help. I bring this up because we get this question a lot at Acquia. And the question is, if I need to honor a privacy request, how does a customer data platform help? Wouldn't that just make it harder to have a single profile where all the customer data lives? And what you may not know, and actually what our customers do with our customer data platform, is use that as sort of a map to find out where all the customer data is. On average, any given company can have upwards of 30 to 50 different tools, different technologies that are dealing with customer data. So you have transactional data, profile data, engagement data, living in all of these different places. If a consumer is requesting to have that data deleted, where do you start? What's downstream from what? How do you even see what's there, much less go in and delete it? So a CDP, a customer data platform, is really useful at that in terms of showing you the map of where all the data lives. And in this is a screenshot from our customer data platform, which basically shows you the source system ID, so you can know what tool that is, and then the source customer number so that you can go in and delete those. Also, of course, you can easily delete them from within the customer data platform. But in a CDP, you take data from all of these different sources, cleanse, dedupe, stitch it, unify it into a single persistent ID, into a profile. So you would delete that profile, and then you would go into those source systems and delete those as well. To make sure that you are adhering to the request. It just makes it a lot easier and a lot more straightforward than you would if you didn't have that unified data brought together from everything. So that's one example. We have lots of different customers using this example, so I wanted to be sure to bring it up. But that really concludes what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to walk through 3 important things to consider as you're building out your infrastructure and considering how to use data in this new world of engaging with consumers through a digital first, or in some cases right now, digital only type of environment. Thank you for watching. I hope this was useful.